Yasmin as well. Okay, so to start with, as you guys know, there's no right or wrong way to meditate. So whatever you experience during this breathing exercise is right for you. It's a lot about observing the process. So as I said, begin by finding a comfortable position. So whether you're sitting on the floor with your legs crossed, sitting upright, I want you to close your eyes or focus on a spot in front of you. Okay, so we're going to start with rolling our shoulders slowly forward a few times and then slowly back. And then lean your head from side to side, so lowering your left ear towards your left shoulder and then your right ear towards your right shoulder. And try and relax those muscles. So your body will continue to relax as we move through this meditation. So I want you to start by observing your breathing. Notice how your breath flows in and out. And make no effort to change your breathing in any way. Simply notice how your body breathes. Your body knows exactly how much air it needs. So sit quietly, seeing in your mind's eye your breathing flowing gently in and out of your body. And when your attention wanders, as it will, just focus back again on your breathing. Just notice any of those stray thoughts, but don't dwell on them. Simply let the thought pass. Okay, and see how your breath continues to flow deeply and calmly. I'd like you to focus now on the stages of a complete breath. So from the in-breath to the pause that follows, then the exhale, and then the pause before taking another breath. Notice the slight breaks between each breath. And feel the air entering through your nose. Picture the breath flowing through the cavities in your sinuses and then down to your lungs. As thoughts intrude, allow them to pass and return your attention back to your breathing. Visualize the air inside your body. Inhale, filling your body up gently, full of air. And notice how the space inside your lungs becomes smaller after you exhale and the air leaves your body. Feel your chest and stomach gently rise and fall with each breath. Now, if you are struggling with your thoughts, a really good tactic is to add some counting into this practice at this point. So as you inhale now, I want you to count slightly 1. And then again, as you exhale, count 1. Wait for the next breath and count again. 1. Exhale, 1. Inhale, 1. Exhale, 1. Continuing to count each inhalation and exhalation as 1. Notice how your body feels compared to when you arrived. Notice how calm and gentle your breathing is and how relaxed your body feels. We're going to start to gently reawaken your body and mind now. So keeping your eyes closed, notice the sounds around you. Feel the floor beneath your feet and feel your clothes against your skin. Wiggle your fingers and toes, and then give me a few of those shoulder rolls again. So really big shoulder rolls forwards and back. Straighten out your legs, stretch your arms, wiggle your shoulders, whatever you need to do or feels right in this moment. And I want you to think about how relaxed you feel. And then let your body slowly reawaken and your mind return to its usual level of alertness. And then we'll come back into the room when you're ready. Amazing. Thank you, guys. I think that was more for me. Well, that was for me as well. How do we feel after that? How did it feel like just to give yourself a few minutes?
That was just what I needed.
It's so really simple, isn't it? You know, it's so simple, but being guided through something like that sometimes, it's not the same when you're kind of maybe doing it yourself. I think you've kind of got someone to set the pace and kind of guide you in, you know, in the words. And I find that guided stuff like this helps me a lot. So yeah, and feel free to kind of have a think about whether we want to do that every week, really, because I feel like sometimes on a Monday at this time, like we just have to arrive. So spending a few minutes on that is probably worthwhile, really. Amazing. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to dig into values now, and what I'm going to do to kick us off is we're going to do a little bit of like breakout room stuff for the first kind of 15 minutes of this session, and what I'd love you to do, the intention around this is sharing your top 3 values, which you've also kind of shared with me, which is amazing. And we're actually going to be looking into kind of explaining or almost presenting those values to someone else in the room, because a lot of that is bringing that in through the fact that we're actually voicing that and saying that. But I want you to, and I'll write these in the chat, I want you to talk about what that feels like to you as a value and how that shows up in your life. So you've kind of already had to think about this in your kind of action plans that you did for me, but actually kind of talking someone through that helps you kind of just understand it and then get their thoughts on that as well. So it's another layer of understanding, really. Does that all sound okay? There's no surprises there, I don't think, from kind of what you guys are ready to. And if you maybe didn't get to 3 and you just want to talk about 1 today, that's absolutely fine as well. Don't worry about that. So don't know if I'm going to let it be random this time, so I don't want the same people to always be together, but let's do it manually. I'm going to do 3 breakout rooms, and then one of you is going to be with me. Okay, so I'm going to put, I'd love to put the generators together, but Yasmin's not here. We've got 2 generators. I'm going to put Carolyn and Georgina together, and then I'm going to put Karen and Molly. We don't need me, so I'm going to dip in and out of the rooms, and then Geeta and Eurasia, if that's okay. So I'm going to give you guys... I'll give you guys 10 minutes, but I'll dip in. So if we kind of don't need as much time, then we can always stop them early. So yeah, you should get a notification that pops up that says join your breakout room, and then off you go. I'll see you guys shortly.
The forgiveness side of it, of, you know, to go behind whatever you're thinking of, and actually to look at what the other person is doing and how to move forward from that. So for me, I'm trying to put it out there and kind of be like, you know, it doesn't matter, we're all learning. And I use that a lot, which is funny because I didn't think that was that much of a big one for me, but it did come out a lot. I'm struggling what else to say. It sounds silly when you're trying to explain why.
That's okay. You don't have to go into lots of detail. That's absolutely, whatever naturally flows out, that's perfect. And what were your other two values? So forgiveness was your top 100%. That's
so and when I looked at the values as well, I came up with was family, and I guess
with me, and I've had quite a few big changes like with work and things like that, so I think mine were not a surprise when I did the quiz before, and then I think when I wrote them down, I actually forgot about what their quiz, well, I didn't forget what they all were because I kind of roughly know what they are, but I didn't know some of the exact words for some of the ones that came up on the quiz. So they were similar, but different words. Like you said, they were different to ones on the list on the workbook, but I feel like actually they probably are very similar, just different ways to say it.
Yeah, and we don't, sometimes the word is the limiting bit actually, because the word can limit, it's more about what it feels like to you. So because you could have health, but actually we all interpret health differently. So the fact that I've almost tested you by not giving you the same quiz, Molly, is good, because almost you're kind of making your own judgments around that word is for you, really.
Yeah, I didn't really, the list that you put on the workbook, I didn't pick any off. Well, I guess I did look at them, but I already knew what I was going to be writing down.
Thing that you don't, it's not like almost like a extensive list. It's almost about you kind of sitting with what words feel right, really, and that will change throughout the program as well. So probably good for you, because I know, Karen, for you it was a slightly new, you hadn't necessarily done this bit before, so again it might change the more you do it and look at these as well.
Yeah, I was just saying to Molly, like we've just said, the same words were not in the workbook, but that didn't faze me. I chose the words, and interestingly enough, the one that's on the top of my list is the one that is missing, but it is a big part of my values, and I guess it's that I sort of want to work on, really.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It doesn't, I think it shows kind of quite a few gaps, as well as kind of showing us what is kind of tick. It always kind of also shows us, oh, actually that should be up there, but actually that's not present in my life. It's a really good kind of check-in challenge exercise.
Yeah, so
interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And also I do feel like the words can change into different meanings as well. Like the bit that I wrote in mine that I sent you, Natty, I don't know if you actually can read my writing, but the words can definitely change. So I mean, even the word health, for some people that's going to look different, so for me it wasn't really about some of the values in this process aren't about getting rid of them because they're negative. They're actually about turning them into a positive. So definitely control for me is the biggest one. Although I do feel like when we first did it, I probably was really stuck on like, yep, it's number one, and now I'm like actually really trying for it it needs to go down the list basically, and I think I am. I think just even doing that work and looking at it is making me realize that maybe it isn't at number one, which I think is good.
That's a massive shift, isn't it, in that you're more in the flow of control. Like, that was non-negotiable for you when we first met, in terms of it had to be present, and actually that's a massive shift actually. Right, I'm going to let you guys go and pop into the final room, but have you both switched? Because I'm going to say in the I think you get the broadcast, you get the little message pop up, don't you, about just to switch now. So I don't know if you've been doing it as you've gone along, but yes, you'll have like another 3 or 4 minutes anyway.
Okay, that's cool, thank you. So
like having time for yourself. Hello.
Hi.
Having time for yourself and to recover and all that. And I think from that place, I can then do the movement and change.
Right. So it's like the control, you're in control of the change. It's not like you like change all the time. You like to be in control of it.
I think I can only enjoy all that as long as I have like, for example, my home, where I can go and close the door and just be myself.
Yeah.
How are you guys finding this in relation to
continuity belongs very much to
Sorry to interrupt. I was just saying it's probably interesting you've both been on the course last week, the human design course as well, having that as a perspective, as another layer to the value work as well, knowing kind of that human design bit probably gives you another layer of learning, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely does for me, and they fit like my values and my body graph. You know, being a generator is all about helping others, and my biggest value is kindness, and that's kindness to others. So it really fits together, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Amazing. Perfect. And how easy was it to connect, to feeling into how they felt? Because obviously sometimes when you say, how does that feel like? How easy was that to connect to? Because that can take a bit of time sometimes.
So for me, I don't know. Well, you saw what I put down. I just scribbled something down. I wasn't sure whether this is what.
But it isn't right or wrong, and I guess it's what feels right to you. And I guess like this is part of it in terms of me just asking the question and you not knowing the answer right now is okay. That might be really clear in another 3 weeks' time, for example. I guess having a slightly different think about the 3 values and how the energy might be different. Because one of them might be like Molly, we were just talking about control being a value and being very like sturdy, powerful, grounded, whereas like peace might be kind of very soft. Do you see what I mean? It's almost thinking about the energy that sits around them, because they'll have a different access point in terms of an emotion, basically. But it's sometimes harder to connect to that, which takes a bit of time.
You know, I struggled, but actually now you've said that, Natalie, it's clicked a bit more for me about thinking about how like an energy, I see like a color and like a feeling that's kind of encompasses me, and I can definitely start to think about that better now.
Excellent, amazing, thank you for sharing. And I'll actually take that back to the room actually, because I think that's feeling into something with that as a bit of a, even use masculine and feminine spectrum as an idea as well. Is it more masculine or is it more feminine? Because again, that's the 2 energies we know. It's almost like, where does it sit? Is it in the middle? You know, that's a really nice guide as well.
Yeah, it's good.
Cool. I'll give you guys 2 more minutes and then I'll bring you back if that's all right.
Okay, we're nearly done, Natalie. We're just chit-chatting, so we're ready whenever.
Amazing, thank you.
Hello, lovely.
We're back.
Hello, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. I hope that was enough time. Did you guys manage to finish your conversations and get to kind of where you?
I think so, yes.
It was really good. Thank you,
It
Karen.
was lovely.
Amazing. You know, there's so much to be said for just kind of like talking it through. You've done a lot of this kind of in your own mind, thinking about this stuff. So I think that's it's a really important step, just kind of talking that through and putting into words sometimes. I had a few things come up from the rooms I popped into. Firstly, Molly's point around the fact that the list kind of wasn't extensive. And I think that's a really interesting one for me, and that I'm actually going to leave it as it is, because I think it's important that I don't have them all on there, like any particular, like possible endless list of words, because actually it's about you coming up with your own words, because actually it's not about the word. The word is the access point into the emotion, but actually I don't really care what you call it, if that makes sense, because actually health for three different people could be three different, mean very, you know, different things. And we had a really good chat, me, Karen, and Georgie, around the energy. So the kind of like, what does it feel like? Still felt quite hard to access. And I talked a little bit about the fact that we can think about it on a spectrum of masculine, feminine. So control, for example, might be very, very in the masculine and might feel very kind of sturdy, strong, grounded, for example. And peace, which is a value of mine, might be on the other end of like feminine and feel very flowy, feel very calm. And sometimes having that spectrum in your mind can help you think a little bit about how it feels. Like, is it kind of over here in the masculine? Because actually sometimes with feeling, it's really unusual to us to connect to how it feels. Like, people ask us, where do you feel that in your body? You know, if you're anything like me, it's really hard to place that. So that might help you with the kind of feeling question, really. Because I think, how did you get on with it? It can be tricky to start with.
I think me and Geeta did really, really well in that our conversation just naturally flowed. And at the end, it was really weird because Geeta just was resonating with everything I said about my values. And we kind of realized we are almost on the same path of where we want, or our dream or passion is. And we were just like, whoa, I was like, we need to have a conversation outside of this. And she was like, 100%, yeah. So it was just really interesting just how you paired us. And like, I'm sure you didn't even know that. But
well, the thing is, I think about all of us is that there's so much resonance in the fact that we're all on this journey, you know, and I think that speaks 1,000 words, in the sense that we're all, some of us kind of slightly ahead more than others, but actually we're still on this journey of like peeling back the layers and like really going within. And that's going to be kind of our tie to each other, really, which is why I love the idea of a group situation, because actually it can feel really isolating because we feel like we're the only one doing this work. And that's why, you know, a few people have said, oh, you know, are you going to run a one-to-one, you know, program anytime soon? And I don't know that I want to, because actually there's so much to be said for showing you guys that actually this is normal, and supporting you through the process rather than feeling like you're doing it on your own. So that's why I think these sessions as well, the more I can pull you together to have those conversations. And that's why Slack's there. So you can literally message each other individually about stuff that you pick up in the session and have those conversations offline as well. Amazing. And how did the guided meditation, again, for some people might be really useful. It might be the moment you're like, yeah, God, that actually really landed. For some it might, hence I provide a bit of a mix there. How did anyone use that? And was it kind of a good access point, or was it kind of easier to kind of journal and kind of work through those questions?
I found it really useful. Every single one that you've done, because there were a couple in the earlier stages as well. And, you know, I just set myself the time aside. I was by myself in the snug. It was lovely. It was amazing. And, you know, I could just close my eyes and focus, and the breathing, all of that, which is only really what I've learned in the last few weeks, is incredibly good for me. It's incredibly good for me, and it does sort of bring about a balance, because life is so chaotic, you know. Even that 5 minutes as we started this session tonight, you know, wow.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to continue working after this, and now I don't feel like I want to, you know. Let's leave that and, you know, enjoy my time this evening.
Which is amazing, isn't it? The fact that actually that's the power being back in kind of in your hands, really, through the fact that you can just reconnect your body and then check in and say, you know, what does my body need in this moment? And you're saying, you know, actually it needs not to go back to work after this session, you know. So yeah, thank you for sharing. And I think, you know, I always say with that workbook, like, don't, if some of it's just not landing, like some, I know you, Rachel, you said with the childhood stuff, you're going to go back and do that at a different point. Like it's about finding your own way with this. But this values work is absolutely where everything starts, because once we've got the compass set, it's almost like you can then almost think about, okay, this is where we're headed. And then the daily choices around the yes and the no's, and the friend that calls you that always kind of, you know, conflicts a boundary of some kind around a value. Like it's easy to say no because you're like, actually, I know why that doesn't feel good to me, because actually that's really conflicting a boundary that's really strong around a value that's kind of really, really important to me, for example. So we're going to talk a little bit about commitment around action, of kind of how this shows up in your life. How easy was it for you guys to talk about how that value, for example, with Gita of forgiveness, like how that was present, how it showed up in your life? Like, was that something that you guys found easy to grasp, or did that take a little bit of time? Pick on the spot. I just heard you talking about forgiveness. So
I think when I did some of the quizzes, and then I realized actually I use this quite a lot in my day-to-day life. Being a mum of 4, I kind of have to teach forgiveness a lot. Yes. And I kind of demonstrate it quite a lot between the children. And I didn't realize I did it so much, and how much it plays a part in my life. And it is something with me. People think for a long time, people thought it was a weakness of mine to be so forgiving, but actually I don't feel that. Yeah. I think it's something that a lot of people don't get to. Thank you. Don't get to experience it. And I think it takes me to a deeper level when I am able to forgive people and to move on, or a certain situation. And I'm constantly trying to teach it to my 13, 12 and 8-year-olds. So it's always a work in progress. But it was easy once Eurasia and I started talking. I think it's quite nice because we just felt like we understood what we were saying, which is good. I didn't waffle.
Yeah, and you're talking to people that get it, right? You know, this group for us is people that support who you're becoming. And actually, you don't need to put on a mask here of like, oh, but you know, but forgiveness, you know, when someone challenges, why is that important to you? Or you know, you kind of have to come up with an excuse. This is almost like the safe space of like, everyone gets it here. But in module 2, we'll talk a little bit about how we can, me and Eurasia have talked a lot about this, but almost like how we can challenge those situations outside, as when someone comes in and really directly kind of confronts a value. And actually we have a chance to then step into that and honor that, or we have a chance to go, oh no, I guess it isn't really, and then regress. That's where boundaries come in. But what's quite special is this is such a safe place for us to like be authentically us, like with no apologies. It's a massive permission slip. But then throughout the program, it's almost we get more confidence to be that person in the world as well. Because it's one thing being it here with each other that are going to completely like cheerlead us, but it's another thing like in the world with family members that don't kind of maybe support the change, because actually it triggers them. It triggers stuff that they've got going on, you know. And then the more we go through this process, the more you'll be able to step into kind of those conversations as well, and really step in a boundary of actually, no, this is really important to me. Whereas, you know, in the past, we might have said, oh yeah, don't worry, and maybe regressed on or stepped back in terms of something that to make them feel good, or to make them feel more comfortable in that situation. So this is where module 2 is like so powerful, because it's, yeah, we're going to be talking a lot more about that stuff. Okay, perfect. I've got a little task for you guys to do now for the next kind of 5 minutes or so. it's a little sneak peek into what you'll be going on to do next, but I think it's really nice to do in a live scenario, actually. So what I'd love you to do is, with your top 3 values, I'd like you to rate them in terms of how you're currently honoring them in your life today. So 0, and some of us have done this kind of together in our first session, but you'll notice already that things will feel different. So 0 is not at all, and 10 is completely. Okay, and this is a little bit different because it takes a value from a word and it shows us kind of a different perspective of maybe how it is or isn't coming through in our life. Okay, and once we've rated them, we're going to just share our scores.
Is this the ones that we got from the quiz? Not our.
It's
mine are slightly different. Like there's a couple that are not.
It's basically just your top 3 that you've kind of owned and taken on. So with this, there's no kind of like right or wrong. So I know some of you've done that personal values quiz and it kicked out 5. So you might pick 3 of the top 5 there, or you might have, from your journaling activity, you might have really kind of come up with 2 or 3 that really feel like they're where you want to focus, Molly. So picking kind of those 3 that you really want to, you sent me 5 in your journal, picking 3 of those. Could rate all 5 if you want to, just to kind of understand. So who wants to share? What kind of scores have we got there in terms of kind of middle of the road? Have we got any massive? Sometimes we can have a really low score and a really high score.
I'm happy to start. So my top 3 values was self-care, financially comfortable, and helping others. I rated self-care as 10. Because I definitely do that sort of day in, day out, and I think I spent all my day doing just that.
I'm dreamy.
It does, but I really should honor the second, which was financially comfortable, which is 0. And helping others, I said 6, because I am volunteering at the moment as well in projects and campaigns that I'm really passionate about, and I feel that's like honoring a part of it, but there's still so much more I can do, and I need to, and I feel I should be doing in order to get that to a 10.
Okay, and which of those feels like the right kind of thing to focus on, almost, if we're going to go through and focus on one of those for the rest of the session? Is it the 6 around helping others, or does it feel like you want to focus more on, because sometimes the low score isn't where we focus our energy, because something might just feel like it needs attention in that moment?
I, throughout working with you, have always been on that helping others 6, definitely, because I mean the 0, yeah, it's a 0, but I don't think there's anything I can do more there. So yeah, I'm just gonna park that and let the universe help me with that one, and I'm gonna really put all my energy into 6, because
and that's the bit that lights you up. Like, even seeing you with Geeta, like, you took on the role of a coach, so naturally I so you were an element there. Like, Eurasia wants to train as a coach at some point, and like, it's so funny how you just snap into that, and it's just, you're at home there, you know. And I noticed that straight away. So
I was a bit conscious about that when you joined. I was like, snap out of it.
No, you shouldn't. It's natural for you, you know, like, that's the thing. Don't try and shy away from stuff that you're just naturally doing. You're stepping forward, and that's always been who you are, you know. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Any other low scores that kind of, what came out the lowest that you guys want to focus on?
So for me, oh, go on, Molly, you go.
No, you go.
So peace is one of my top 3 values, and it's something that really affects everything else in my life if it's off kilter. And I've given myself a 5/6 for that at the moment, because I have taken on too many things in my life at the moment, and with my work is taking over. So my peace is off. My space, my time for relax, the calm in my life that I need is much lower than it should be. So that's something that I want to focus on.
Amazing, amazing. And you know, this is where again it's interesting to figure, you know, to get some feedback around peak moment, suppressed values and must-haves, like, because actually a peak moment for you, Georgie, would be a really good way to like explore when you felt more at peace and what was present in your life when actually you did feel. And that could be a really good way of getting ideas for these low scores. Oh, okay, when was that score a 10? What was I doing? Who was I around? How was I feeling? Because actually there might be something we can bring back in our life that then really kind of gets us back into alignment quite nicely and quickly. So again, I'm going to ask you that, Georgie, like when peace is a 10, like, is there anything that's present kind of more than, you know, more times than not when you're feeling peaceful?
So the lighting is a big thing for me to create peace. Candles, smells, essences, that kind of thing is a real peace driver for me, and also my own space. So at the moment I'm at my mum's house because I'm helping look after my niece. So this isn't my space, this isn't my energy, none of this is about me. So this doesn't help me with my peace value.
Yeah, no, I understand that. You've almost got a bit of a challenge there, but at the same time, I'm going to challenge you and say, actually, you can probably recreate a lot of that environment through, I don't know about, this is a bit weird, but when I go places, like I take my candles with me and all my essential oils and stuff, people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I can't explain it to you. I just, this, sometimes, you know, you need stuff that kind of just keeps you kind of back in check. For you, Molly, it's probably a yoga mat. Like, you know, you're like, okay, I'm probably going to need that yoga mat with me, you know. So that's the thing. Sometimes don't let that limit you as well, because there's elements that you can bring with you in when those kind of, you know, circumstances change as well.
I think Georgie, I think like maybe even just saying to your mum, like, I need this smell here, or this is mine, can you make sure this is with me? I think like making sure that the people that have around you, because it's funny you say yoga mat, because I asked my boyfriend like a silly thing, like, what item do you reckon I would take to a deserted island, and he said your yoga mat. So it's like, I think it's knowing people around you, knowing as well. I think that's quite, maybe because obviously you're going to have to try and get peace from your new environment, so you know, making people aware could be a tip.
Creating a boundary around that, you know, Georgie. So again, it's like maybe a certain time of day where you normally practice that at home, like your mum or people around you need to know that actually during kind of 8 or 9 p.m, that's the time that you tend to do meditation or yoga, and that's a structure that you actually, it's non-negotiable for you, because that's your time that you need to fill your cup. And sometimes permission, like it can feel uncomfortable, put a boundary in place like that, especially if we're serving others, but that's a massive permission slip to your mum as well, to be like, oh, maybe I should take a bit of like time for me. I love that ripple effect analogy of like us giving ourselves permission around a boundary of a no, that then allows someone else to have permission to then put their boundary in place. You know, I'm like, wow, like that's actually takes away that guilt, doesn't it? Because actually it becomes a way that we're then helping others indirectly, really.
Yeah, it like turns it around. It makes it feel not like a selfish act. It actually makes it feel like an act of love for yourself and for others. I really like that.
Yeah, and guilt is often what comes up here with a lot of accessing our values. It's, oh, I can't, because you feel guilty around giving yourself that. But actually, if you reframe it like that, it's a really nice opportunity to actually then support others through a different perspective as well. Amazing. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else kind of, and it might be that you're struggling a bit with like the low one and you're a bit like, oh, but I don't really know how I'd access that. So use this group, kind of use this opportunity as a chance for us to brainstorm, because it might be that you get a really good idea from someone here about how you can access the value of peace, for example.
Yeah, I think like I control on my list is currently a negative, but I just want to, I feel like I want to turn it into a positive. So I put a 3 out of 10 for it being a negative part of my life, but kind of, yeah, how I can move that into a positive. One idea I did have when I was doing it is kind of bringing it into, so creativity is obviously a 10, so bringing the creativity into the control.
Yeah.
Something I have been doing is watching Jay Shetty's wife's
I knew you were
food
going to say something
videos.
about Jay Shetty, Molly.
I love him so much. I've been watching his wife's food videos, and I bought a new spice today to put into our dinner tonight. And yeah, I think just getting creative in the kitchen. So like bringing them both.
I have to ask Molly, what's the spice?
Oh, do you know what? I'm gonna really muck up if I try and pronounce it. So let me go get it.
I've pretty much done exactly what Molly's done, and I've been like shopping for all these new spices, and like I've removed eating onion and garlic from my diet, and I'm just like gone absolutely like in this world of like Ayurveda, and I'm like all my foods, I'm like, Mom, look what I've created, and she's just like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm obsessed. I like that Molly's on.
Yeah.
Jay Shetty and Radhi train. It's so.
I love them so much. Like, do you know what? All weekend I've been saying to my boyfriend in a joke, what would Jay Shetty do in this situation?
It's really dumb question to ask yourself, isn't it? But actually, you know, Molly, so technically it's actually more what Molly do.
Yeah, it is. But what's one thing that so one thing that I can't believe, so we're talking about spices, one thing I can't believe I'm only just telling everyone is how much I am obsessed with turmeric. So I eat it raw, and it's in every food that we have. Like everything in my kitchen stained yellow. So I did obviously loads of research about kind of similar spices. So I bought this one today. I don't know.
Okay, fenugreek, yeah.
Yeah. So it smells so good. It smells a bit like sweet. So yeah, I bought this one, but I think she does use the seed more, but I thought I'd try the powder because that's what I saw in the shop today. Yeah.
I love that. And I think this is also interesting because this is going to naturally like be the way that we experiment, is kind of through actually these random that you think are like so random, but actually they're not, because you're kind of coming back to what brings you joy, what makes you feel good. So actually the fact that you're probably finding all these kind of weird and wacky and wonderful kind of new hobbies and ideas like is part of the process. And creativity is often the thing that we've lost. And actually creativity is an amazing access point back into values, because actually it's that flow feeling of, we talk about accessing the flow or being in the flow. And that's when we're mindful, we're present, we're in the moment, things are just easy. And a lot of this journey is about being more in that flow. So actually, if it's cooking, if it's kind of coming up with new recipes, if it's moving your body, if it's listening to music, whatever that is, it's going to bring you closer to kind of that feeling of when you're in alignment, when you're kind of more you know. So it's absolutely linked, even though you can feel like you're going off on a tangent, you're not really, because you're kind of really being curious about kind of what brings you joy ultimately. So I love that. The weirder, the better, honestly.
But yeah, just to end, if anyone has any other kind of tips how control can become a positive from a negative, then that would be good.
I feel like with you, Molly, you're actually like, I feel like by the end of the program that probably won't be a value, because I feel like you're actually releasing control, in that it was a value that actually was just there inherently as a belief, as something you feel like you needed, but as you move through, you're like releasing control and you're actually in the flow. And I don't actually feel like that will end up being a value in the same way, because a lot of kind of what we've spoken about is that masculine feminine as well, and actually releasing the control is probably that last kind of step, really. So I almost feel like don't make it fit if it's kind of like moving away, because actually that's okay, because actually these values will change as we. So don't almost make these values something that define you now, because actually in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks they'll change. So this is all fluid. but we will come back and look at these and then say, oh, I wonder how many of those are still present at week 6, 7, 8, 9, you know. So that's the thing, this isn't a container that's going to kind of make you be a certain way forever. It's just almost another layer of knowledge, and see it like that. I don't want this to be a label in any way. It's not about giving you a label of these are my 3, and you know, it's all about connecting to yourselves deeper, really. Yeah, carry on.
I just wanted to say, when we did the quiz, when I first did the quiz with you, a control came up as my number 1.
Yeah.
And it made sense because to how I had answered it. But I think it was because of the current situation I was kind of thinking about. And going back to what Molly had said before with the situation she was in, I think it is a lot of what's happening right then, that control aspect. Because then when I started to answer the quizzes differently, I realized it was just at that moment I was feeling those. So they have, even mine have changed from meeting Natalie, from looking at them a bit more. And I think that's quite nice to bear in mind, that they do even change within a few weeks. And even as you're going through this, it could be just down to the current situation you're in.
Interesting you say that, because actually a lot of, like, when I've been journaling, I've been thinking, actually, am I just thinking it's this because I'm still labeled as this person from the outside, and actually, am I still that person? No. So yeah, you're right. Like, I think a lot of it is like how we how like the outside see us is what I think.
And that's why sorry, Natalie.
No, you go, Georgie.
That's why I found the visualization, the meditation so powerful, because I did the quiz and there were some values there, and I felt like that was labeling me slightly. And then when I sat and thought about it and looked within and visualized it, the ones that were really true within that came very clear to me, and the ones that weren't, that was kind of situational, or what I think I should say, kind of fell away.
So there's almost 2 stages to it, isn't there, around actually that kind of external piece, and then the ones you choose inwardly to take on as part of you. And actually the thought and feeling bit around this is different. So sit with that. If kind of you want to go away and maybe do that quiz in a week's time or something like that. And I will say as well, if you answer this quiz in different environments, so for example, if you do the quiz at work and you do the quiz at home, you'll probably get different answers, because of the fact that we wear different masks in different areas of our lives, you know. And then it's figuring out, okay, which of the mask isn't a mask, and which is one is truly mine, which of those are truly mine rather than being a mask. So this is all like peeling back those layers of being really clear on what's kind of present at the core, really. So you can see now why I love values work so much, because it's just such a, it's not the answer, but it's almost just such an amazing tool to kind of understand another layer, really, of that onion, peeling back another layer of the onion. Amazing. Okay, we're going to go, so basically the next part of the session that you're going to go on to do in the next week is going to be around, you're going to do a bit of that rating scale again on your own, because of the fact that I think you'll probably get different answers doing it on your own anyway. So you're going to rate each one in terms of like the kind of survey format like we've done before. And you're going to actually look at a few commitment statements around these values as the final part to module 1. So basically you're going to come up with, and for those that have worked with me before, you know I love a yes and a no. So we're going to have a list of yeses and a list of nos. So what am I going to say yes to around this work, these values? So it might be that actually Georgie's value around peace, there's quite a bit there about a certain time of day that's protected, that's non-negotiable time that she's kind of accessing her value of peace, for example. But actually often the no comes first. And a lot of you have heard me talk about this, but often there's something that's getting in the way there that helps us access the yes if we actually really label the no. It might be that, for example, with peace, you know, a lot of it around accessing stillness is distraction. So the fact that our phone is not on airplane mode, or we've maybe doing it on our computer, but we've not got it on full screen, we've got distractions coming in. So actually our meditation time isn't meditation time because we're distracted 6-7 times by something popping up somewhere. So your no might be no technology when you're doing that, you know, that practicing stillness, for example. So you can kind of see how the two link in terms of the yes can really support you with moving forward, but actually the no can kind of like almost remove the barriers in getting there, really. And some of these might be related to other people. So, you know, boundaries in place with others that really start to conflict these values. You know, there might be something that's coming up around honesty or forgiveness, one friend or family member that you think, yeah, they're really not in alignment with that value. So this is really going to challenge you when they ask you to spend time together, for you to really like think about whether that is the right thing for you to do rather than it being a reaction to what they need. So this is almost like the toolkit. And again, we'll come back to this every week from now, but they're really nice to have almost like, I love the yeses to become mini mantras. Like I like to use them in this way, almost like, you know, as a yes, so that you can kind of always have it written on a to-do, you know, on a little post-it note on your computer with your yeses, because they actually become daily reminders. If we're actually saying, for me, really used to really struggle with being in connection with my body. So even drinking water for me was hard. When I got busy, I forgot to just do a basic thing like that. So a lot of mine were like reminders around, you know, I will drink water. For example, that was a lot about accessing health for me. So you can kind of see how we're looking at the action and behavior, and almost like the little, I had a client this morning and we're actually on the call and she was writing them out and then running around her house, putting post-it notes around her house. But it's the fact that, you know, let's make this not just a conversation. It's about how do we bring it through into action, really. So yeah, that is going to be what you're going to spend next week on. And then I am so excited about the week after. It's going to be basically introducing you guys to your leader within. I don't think any of you have done this with me, because obviously some of you have done bits and bobs, but we're basically, our leader within is kind of ourself in our full power, when we're standing in full self-acceptance of who we are. And, you know, even just saying those words, it's like, whoa, you know. So we're going to start by doing a bit like a long guided meditation next time, so that you can kind of really meet your leader within for the first time. And then that week will be very much around connecting to who that leader within is, what they look like, what their energy feels like, you know, what their name is. You know, like mine's kind of like a really green goddess that wears a really green dress. For some reason, green just comes up when I did all those meditations. And once we kind of connect to that leader within, we've got them for almost forever. To kind of, in those moments of like real struggle, we can connect in that moment to our leader within. So do you kind of see how it's another tool that you guys can use when you're struggling, of like, hang on a minute, like there's some leader within energy here that can really help me in this really tough kind of daily choice that needs a boundary, for example. And it's a really creative, for the creative ones of you, it's a really creative exercise for us to really get kind of really wacky out, you know, have some kind of almost really kind of, we'll do a bit of a mood board and kind of look at, yeah, you know, what they sound like, what they move like, what they dress like. It's really connecting to kind of that on lots of different layers. So hopefully you're all still with me, and that I've not completely, because a lot of people are like, what's gone over my head. But honestly, I'm so excited to share it with you, because it's been a massive part of my journey, just having that there available to you. You know, it's all within you. That's the thing, it's all within you. I'm just coaxing it out.
Oh, I actually find the leader within thing a bit interesting in that, so I have this illusion in my mind. I'm going to be very open here, people, I might be crazy, but so when I have like a surge of energy, or I feel like I'm really bossing at something and I'm like feeling really powerful, and I always say I'm the lion that I was always meant to be. So my star sign's Leo. Mm-hmm. And I've really embodied being the lioness. Mm. At the point, I've actually got a lion tattooed on my back. That's how much I love the lion, the power of the lion. I completely believe everything about being a lion. And when I start like my brother used to say when he was younger, he used to say, you remind me of a cat. like everything you do is very cat-like. Like you like you scrunch up into a tiny little ball, and you don't even have to sit like that, but you sit like that. You're so weird. You're like a cat. And he always used to say, you remind me of a cat. Everything is a cat. And I used to do this thing when I go to the gym and I have a really good gym session, or I'm feeling awkward about myself, I used to tap into the lion. I used to be like, think about the lion. Who's the lion? What is the lion? And I used to say these things about the lion. Or if I just did something really powerful at work that made me feel like,
yeah,
you are a queen bee, I used to be like, because you're a lion. So it's like my hair as well, like, you know, how it's really quite like a mane. And
I love that.
yeah, and it's really funny you said this, leader within, because
It's probably your leader within. You've probably already found it, in that you're using that tool to like support you already, but actually don't get attached to that label, because actually it might be slightly different, in the sense that, and I also like to call it your captain or your leader within, because everything on the journey within is a water analogy, and it's all about your compass and your travel and your destination. So a lot of this is almost thinking of who you are, yeah, when you're in that full power. And I think the leader within, or the captain, whatever title feels like it resonates, kind of don't feel like it has to, yeah, make sure the language is right for you, basically, with all of this. But yeah, it feels like, Eurasia, that's kind of actually what you've been doing through using that as part of your toolkit already. But this exercise can maybe get you a bit closer to like exactly what it is. So get really specific about, you know, what is it about how the lion moves? You know, it's that real kind of detail, which is just another layer, really. So I love that. Thank you for sharing, because I think that helped bring it to life for people, really, who may be a bit like, I think Natalie's gone crazy. Hopefully you're still with me, but you've kind of reaffirmed kind of what I'm kind of trying to get across there.
What would be really interesting is if I could keep the leader within just always exercising itself, even when I'm just doing everyday things. Like, I get so shy, and I know people won't believe this, but if I have to like be in a staff meeting or something and I have to talk about something, that is it. I'm like completely shy. I can't talk. I say like really bitty words because I'm just so unconfident in those sort of scenarios. And then I'm like, what happened to the lion? Like,
where's the lion gone?
It's become a Wizard of Oz situation here. Like, such a coward.
But it just shows, doesn't it, how much actually like this is all like, you know, playing into like mind, and the fact that like mind body connection, and like if you can get yourself into a certain energy and talk yourself into a certain feeling, actually like you can overcome anything. So, you know, in those moments, you probably just didn't prepare yourself, in the sense that you didn't actually bring that line through into that moment in the right way. So a lot of this is like calling that energy and almost like, yeah, okay, I'm going to walk out of the room, I'm going to walk back in my leader within energy. And actually the result's going to be different. But if you don't separate the two, then it's maybe not as easy to use them. You know, we'll talk a bit about like certain scenarios that you guys are going to really like. This is where it gets really fun. Like, you're always going to step into that leader within energy in your real life. So there might be like a really hard scenario that you're dealing with at work, or, you know, personal life, where actually you're like, yeah, that needs some of my leader within energy. Yeah. And then we're going to like be accountable for each other to step into that and then like report back. And this is where we're starting to push the boundary of like, let's take it out of this room. Like, because it's making me tingle. It's almost like the next bit of like, yeah, other people. This is like about external change. This is where we're starting to get into external change, because we can talk about this in this room, but actually it's actually the ripple effect of our lives, of taking it outside of this room, that the real kind of power is in. So yeah, that's going to be loads of fun.
Something that I thought of when you said about kind of the leader of it, and actually when you mentioned about the lion, and maybe it coming a little bit from your brother saying saying when you're younger. Recently my mom keeps saying, oh, like, woman of many talents, and then I'm kind of thinking like, maybe that is me pushing away from the control.
Yeah.
So that kind of I think I'm excited about doing that work. At first when you said it, I was thinking, oh God, I'm not sure.
Don't worry, I'm not going to like make you act it out on stage or anything. That's going to be one step too far. But this is like.
Oh, I thought you were going to say dress up as the leader within.
Good, guys. You know, there's no
boundary. Lion costume or something.
Please wear a lion costume.
Honestly, you're reading my mind. Like, I'll pay you later. Like, honestly, this wasn't.
Can I just share something, right? So I absolutely love lions, absolutely love them so much. My little nephew had to do Wizard of Oz in nursery recently for Christmas, and I asked him, what character do you want to be? He only knows lion. I was like, what character do you want to be? I knew what he was going to say. Gave him 3 characters. He went lion. I went, good choice. And my brother-in-law got him a lion costume. He looked so cute. Amazing.
That's your that's other people. Like, you're actually like creating your like leader within tribe now. Like, everyone around you is embracing the lion. This is a whole new level, isn't it? Of the ripple effect there. Amazing. Oh, I love that. I feel like that's really put it into perspective, and a bit of laughter. Like, we all need that in our lives. So I think that'll be such good fun. I'm gonna, like I said, I've chosen to do the meditation live for that one because I think there's something about doing it in the moment, almost like in a pressured scenario, because actually sometimes you can get a really different experience with that in actually kind of the fact that you're not always kind of controlling it and setting it up in the way that you want, and actually each other's learning of kind of sharing a bit about what come up for you. Because it might be that initially there was like certain colors, for example, like Georgie just said today, that when we talk about color, energy, for Georgie, it's about color, and I used to think of a color that's around a certain energy. So it might be that when we do the visualization, like certain things start to come out, but you need to then spend a bit of time with it to get a bit clear about the detail. So you might not have a name to start with, for example. You might just have like a color or the kind of like movement, whether it's flowy or kind of like static of how they move. But as we kind of sit with this a bit more, you'll get really clear. And again, I will say the leader within does change as we change. So my leader within, when I first started this work about 3 years ago, was very masculine driven, very kind of go, 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 Nike slogan, like manifesto of like, just do it. That's a Nike slogan is literally made for the manifesto of like, go, go, go. But actually, as I've kind of stepped into my true authentic self, there's a lot more flow and peace there. So actually kind of my leader within is it's a lot more grounded. It's got a lot more like Buddha energy around it now. So again, like it's almost finding the reference point and then it's supporting kind of where you're going. So this is also something that will be fluid. But yeah, I'm really excited to kind of see what we come up with. It's one of my favorite bits of the program. So yeah, it's going to be lots of fun. Amazing. I literally feel like, yeah, that time has just flown. I don't know how it's suddenly 20 to 8. So I don't want to keep you guys. I'm going to be here for the next like 5-10 minutes if anyone wants to kind of talk anything through that might be still a bit kind of stuck around values, but I've kind of intentionally given you another week with values because it's, as you've kind of gleaned from today, it's a really kind of, it's a process. All of it's a process. So sitting you in that values energy for another week before we go on to leader within, I think feels right. But yeah, next week we'll kind of jump straight into module 2 really. And I call it the crossing because it is about the stormy waters a little bit, because actually this is where we're kind of going to force you to step out into the world as this person a bit and almost kind of really be a bit more like courageous and daring. And sometimes that comes with a bit of unsteadiness, and that's why it's kind of called the crossing, because actually if we kept you in this kind of bubble the whole time, then it'd be lovely, but by the end of the program we wouldn't necessarily kind of seeing it shift kind of our external world as well. So yeah, thank you guys for your time. I don't know what you think about starting with like some kind of breath work at the beginning of each session. Did that really help today?
Yeah, I think that was good.
Yeah, so just 3-4 minutes of just arriving, because I know like anything like you guys, and I know Karen, bless you, just came off a work call, so it's definitely needed, I think, isn't it, just to kind of have a moment. And then this week we've got yoga tomorrow with Eden at 8 for anyone that wants to join. It will be recorded, and Yasmin, who's not here, is delivering me an amazing yoga / meditation session on Thursday, which is a bonus session. So no pressure about that stuff, guys, because I know this is a lot in itself for you to do and find time for. So please don't feel any pressure. It's there just to support you if it feels like you want to do it on the day, but there's no pressure. I'm aware some weeks like this week and there can be a lot on the timetable. So yeah, just thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you.
Have a lovely rest of your evening, everybody.
Same to you. Thank you.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
How do you pronounce the spice, did you say?